So, let's go ahead and go to our main text for today. It's Matthew 20, verses 1 through 16. We'll have some other scriptures as we go along, but I'm pretty much going to read most of them to you because they're pretty short. 21 through 16. For the kingdom of heaven is like a landowner who went out early in the morning to hire men to work in his vineyard. He agreed to pay them a denarius for the day and sent them into his vineyard. About the third hour he went out and saw others standing in the marketplace doing nothing. He told them, "You also go and work in my vineyard, and I will pay you whatever is right." So they went. He went out again about the 6th hour and the 9th hour and did the same thing. About the 11th hour he went out and found still others standing around. He asked them, "Why have you been standing here all day long doing nothing?" "Because no one has hired us," they answered. He said to them, "You also go and work in my vineyard." When evening came, the owner of the vineyard said to his foreman, "Call the workers and pay them their wages, beginning with the last ones hired and going on to the first." The workers who were hired about the 11th hour came and each received a denarius. So when those came who were hired first, they expected to receive more, but each one of them also received a denarius. When they received it, they began to grumble against the landowner. "These men who were hired last worked only 1 hour," they said, "and you have made them equal to us who have borne the burden of the work and the heat of the day." But he answered one of them, "Friend, I am not being unfair to you. Didn't you agree to work for denarius? Take your pay and go. I want to give the man who was hired last the same as I gave you. Don't I have the right to do what I want with my own money, or are you envious because I am generous? So the last will be first, and the first will be last." And the title of my message today is "No Shortcuts to the Front of the Line." And I don't know why I was just now thinking about it. It's like I can totally relate. It's like with my family because I don't know what the right term would be because it's not really blended family. I mean, I'm not on a second marriage or anything, but between our adoptive kids and our foster kids and our biological kids, as time has gone by, we've added more, and so some of them I've heard the grumble where they expect, or they kind of have this sense of "I was here first" mentality. And that really wasn't like the heart of the text of what I was speaking on today, but for some reason as I'm reading it, that's kind of like what caught in my mind. But we're about 8 weeks away from high school graduation, but at the same time there's these 5th grade graduations that go on. Kindergarten graduation, Head Start graduations, all these graduations. You're like, what are you graduating from? You're more graduating into anything, if something else. But I've been through so many of these 5th grade graduations, and one thing that seems to stand out as familiar and similar to every single one of them, they all have to put together their "where am I going to be in the future" stories. And one of the teachers always gets up there and reads it, and all the parents giggle about, "I'm going to be a movie star." And there's always the one kid that has like the funny thing that they're going to be when they get older, and because the parents are like, "How are you motivated enough to even do that?" But there's the "I'm going to be a baseball player, I'm going to be an astronaut, I'm going to be fill in the blank," whatever you've seen. And we laugh and giggle and look at it, and I go, it's unrealistic. We know, only 1 in a million people is going to be a movie star or a baseball player. 1 in 10 million is going to be a baseball player. But we kind of have to be in one of these areas where we can't crush dream. You don't want to be a dream crusher, but you want to be a realist. Right. You need to be a teacher. So we always want to have dreams, but at the same time, as parents, we also need to teach. If you want to get to X, you got to start at A. And how do we get there? And as kids go along, some of those ideas of what they see as great, change. I mean, I've had my kids go, my bedtime is 8 o'clock. When do I get to have a 9 o'clock bedtime or a 10 o'clock bedtime? It's going to be great when I turn 17 because I can go see a rated R movie by myself in the movie theater. And I'm going to drive a fast car, and I'm going to, it's the big list of all these great things about being what, an adult is. But then as you get to be an adult, that really that the 9 o'clock bedtime, it's not for your kids, it's for the parents. And that, driving a fast, expensive car is great, but what a car insurance premium is on a sports car for an 18-year-old? Good luck. It's a mortgage payment. I'm going to eat whatever I want. But then at some point, There's something called a metabolism. It either stops. It's one of those. It's just, it's one of those things that's it can go one of two ways. And as time goes along, adulthood doesn't look so glamorous. And I was watching a movie the other day, and I'm like, I wonder if this is where like some criminal attitudes come from, because you have all these dreams when you're little about who you're going to be and who you want to be, and you not finally, but do you hit a moment in time and go, I'm never going to be that person. I'm never going to, and it doesn't even have to be I'm going to be a movie star. I'm never going to own a home. I am never going to make more than minimum wage. Is there at that point, and at that point, do you go, well, I can't be successful this way. Being a criminal isn't it can lead to prison, but this way is so much harder. Going the straight and narrow is harder. It's hard. And so it's not like I'm trying to push off, I get you criminals, keep doing what you're doing, because your life is terrible. But, at least have some understanding there. But, but then again, did they have those parents who crushed their dreams too quickly and went, okay, that's never going to happen. So, okay, if that's never going to happen, where can they realistically go? How do we help make them successful in school? How do we help make them successful in life? What tools are we teaching them? I was watching something the other day, and they were talking about kids that had gone off to college this last year, and it was amazing. My kid has washed his clothes for the first time by himself, and he called home to ask, where do I put the soap? I'm like, where do I put the soap? It's like, man, my third graders know how to do their own laundry. They hate it. We do their laundry. It's like you can tell when laundry time's coming up and they're running out of clothes. And it's like they're really good about putting it in the washing machine and dryer part, but man, do they hate to fold their clothes. With a passion. These kids hate to fold their clothes. I've seen it like put in a barrel and they'll come out of the room, oh, I'm done. Yeah. How are you done? Oh, it's put away. And you go in there and they're all sitting in the drawers. It's just all in the drawers. And I'm like, so then the answer is, all right, we got to pull it all out and start again. And then, and I've got a couple where like the tears start. It's so hard. Oh, tears. Tears start. And no, it's girls and boys. And then the tears start. And it's like, really? This is the difficulty of your day? And I'll go, okay, you've got you. And it's like, I've done my laundry and a load of towels and a load of whites and the baby's clothes and other stuff. And your one load is so hard. But it takes forever. And forever is like 30 minutes. It's just tough. But, and it's like as we go along and we get older, and I don't know how much of this is anymore, but being the firstborn child, especially in like an Italian household, has like all these benefits. And it was supposedly. And but for the longest time, being a firstborn child, it's like, this is great. I'm the one that inherits everything. Mom and dad work their tail off, and I'll get their house and their car and all their money and their retirement and everything else. And, that's like thinking, and I'm like, if you're really doing the firstborn son thing right, a firstborn child, or head of household scenario, if we look at the story of Jacob and Esau, that was really it was Esau's birthright. It really belonged to him. And we had the mom favored Jacob and the dad favored Esau because they were similar alike in these ways. But through deception, Jacob took everything that belonged to his brother, legally. But he didn't think about the consequences. It's like having all the perks is like the neat thing. But in Jewish custom, that the firstborn was actually in charge of the entire household. They were supposed to take care of their mothers and their brothers and the flocks and make sure everything was set out. And all of this was given away, all the power, if you want to call it that, was given away before Dad died so that Dad could fill in the blanks of things that were needed. Tell, the processes of this is what we do, this is where we graze, this is where, in the winter when it gets cold, we move over here. So it was a teaching time. It wasn't just this I'm going to get rich quick scenario. But isn't it interesting that God still honored it because the blessing had been given by Dad, even though he was blind and feeble and couldn't see it? Because, who are the three key leaders in the Hebrew faith? Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, not Abraham, Isaac, and Esau. He still honored it, which is amazing because God keeps his promises. Even when it's hard, I can't imagine God going, man, you were deceptive. I can't imagine there not being a moment where he went, man, I keep my promises like I want you to keep your promises. I have to keep it even when it's hard. Because, God's our Father. He has to make hard choices. When we don't do what we're supposed to. I can't imagine him going, I'm going to send down a lightning bolt because I'm going to, that's his form of bringing out the belt. Being the head of household, if you're doing these roles correctly, they're not going to be easy. And much of the time, you're going to find that you're tired, frustrated, full of pain. It's backbreaking, and then your kids are just going to make you crazy. In actuality, there's no benefit to it. It's like, it's like I tell my kids, I've told some of my kids this before that, I'm watching what you guys are doing. I'm watching you guys. It's not one of these instantaneous things, like the Jacob and Esau story that I'm looking to see who, there's 11 of us. And if something happens to me, and as you get older, who can your siblings count on? Who are they going to be who can they go to for advice? And as I tell them, my dad has, I tell them, it's like, I'm paying attention up here. I listen to what you guys say. I listen to what you're doing. I listen to how you live your lives. I listen to your attitudes towards your siblings. And they're like, oh, what did I get the other day? That's kind of creepy, Dad. Great. Kind of creepy. But, it's like there's moments where I'm like, this kid looks like he's stepping up, but then he falls off a cliff backwards. And I'm like, starting over again. It's like I had, Claire tell me the other day, she's my child that can find more ways to make money at 14 than I ever could. And she's doing this study thing at the University of Oregon that she does every few months where they're studying like teens and their brains and other stuff on campus so they can understand the teenage mind. Good luck with that. Yeah, right. And so they go in and they put this stuff into her brain and they like ask her questions and they check to see which sections of her brain light up and they just kind of whatever they're doing. And they pay her to do that and she comes home after her like third or fourth time and I'm like, wow, you got this big pile you've raked in. What are you doing with all this? She's like, I'm saving this. She's like, I'm not my brother's. That was the exact quote. I'm not my brother's. I don't spend it as soon as I get it. And so in my brain it goes, check mark, someone I can trust. She didn't think about it, but in Dad's brain, check mark, somebody I can trust. And I do that all day long, all week long. I listen, I watch. And so yeah, I'm creepy, but I'm like... but even Jesus, Jesus modeled this. That, Jesus had other half-siblings. Brother James had other siblings. But when the end of his life came, did he ask any of them to take care of their mother? No. He went to John. Yeah, wasn't even his brother. And all these others didn't say why. It's just like, this is your mom, this is your son. Take care of her. He knew him. And what blessing did John get? John was the one that, the only one that died of natural means. They could not kill that guy. So, and even David. David eventually chose Solomon. He had half of his kids trying to take his kingdom. Yeah, it's like David, bawling his eyes out over Absalom. The guy was trying to kill him in every possible way. Absalom! Oh! It's like how, and this guy is trying to spend his whole life killing him, but in the end, he finally, he picked the right choice. He picked Solomon. He picked the right choice at that moment. Solomon had his own issues to work through. But David did what he could at that moment with what he can. Because what was he in charge of? Building the temple. And part of that's some of that's still standing today, bits and pieces. I'm going to skip forward a little bit because I realized when I wrote my message, I'm like, I like this part next. Living in a father in this time, the one thing I've learned is that being the head of household doesn't mean standing at the front of the line. I find a lot of my life is kind of like if you've ever been to at Christmas in Springfield, they'll have that down the main street or whatever. They'll have like the fire department and the people on horses and everything going by. But at the very end of the line, there's that street sweeper and that person that's like sweeping the horse poop up from it all. And that's what it seems like really where my role is at times. That, because I'm at work most of the day, and mom is the one that gets them to school and is making sure they're at their million doctor's appointments and soccer practices. And, I get home from work, and usually my first question is, what do we got going on tonight? And she's like, I usually get the first line is, go look on the calendar. Because it's all written on this big giant calendar we have in our house. She's like, go look at the calendar. I'm like, all right. And so, Mom has to stand at the front of the line because she's got to give the direction. She's got to, she's got to be the point guard. She's got to get us going in the, in the right direction. But, but it's like I try as the days go along. I try and give my kids pieces of wisdom that will be helpful to their lives. And, we go over things all the time, and they just kind of roll their eyes. Oh, you've gone over this 400 times, Dad. But, I'll say things like, strive to be the smartest one in your circle of people. But if you're not, be friends with the person that is. Because they are going to help you with your life. Because at this moment, really, in your life, Mom and Dad are more than likely the smartest people that you have in your circle. More than likely. How many people do a 9-year-old come in contact with? We're on your side. We're going to get you there. Be our friends. But strive to be the smartest person you know. But if you're not, be friends with the person that is. Drink some of their blessing. And it's like I've between, just problems that I have day in and day out, it's just like I hit this, between my physical difficulties that I've had with my legs and my back and, this rut that it just seemed like that life stuck in, and I finally paused and went, there's certain areas in my life that I can still work on. I may not be able to run like I want to, but, I can work on being a better dad. And I now pause myself and I don't know why I came to this realization. We just had a really just bad week. And my brain went, am I really going to have to do this for 7 to 10 more years? And it was just like, is that where I'm at? And I went, well, something needs to change. Change always works when change starts with you. And so I went, you know what? The yelling needs to stop. So I kind of made this agreement with myself, I guess, covenant, whatever you want to say, is that I just need to be done with it. And it's not that it doesn't ever happen, but I'll tell you, it happens a lot less frequently. And that's in the last month. This isn't like some big journey I've been on for a couple of years. It's been like the last month. And, because I hit that point and I went, I can't spend my life hating my kids. I can't spend my life going, man, I can't wait till you're 18, so I'm done with you. And I hit that moment where it's like, I got to do something. And I didn't even tell my wife about it. She was gone, I think, for the weekend, and I started working with the kids, and so I guess working isn't the right phrase. That pretty much I told myself is you know what? We're going to start having conversations about our bad attitudes and why we have bad attitudes and why we're doing bad things at school until basically we're sick of it. And so we have conversations about, how was school today? Were we successful at school today? Where were we not successful at school today? Where were we not listening? Where were we not focusing? And we do this every day. And they may be sick of it, but it beats the alternative, because I knew where I would have been after I get the next phone call from school about banging on the windows of the outside of school, disrupting school, or we're not listening to teachers. I mean, I couldn't yell for another minute. It wasn't working. So we have conversations. It's like DHS has this term that they have coined. It's called skill building, where you try and, it's basically teaching your kids, trying to focus them in the right direction and teach them skills they don't have, and how to be a good kid, and how to be a productive member of society, and doing your laundry, and basic stuff like that. And so that's kind of where I've been. We've been working on basic skills. What attitudes do we need to have with our brothers and sisters? And we'll go like a week where everything seems like, man, we're like going full steam ahead. And then we have like 1, 2, 3 days where it's like, did you forget everything that we've done for the last 3 weeks? Yeah. And we take 3 more steps back. And for me, it has to start with me, because I could very easily lose it again and go, we're starting over again. And it all starts with me. It's like, if I can focus you first, Jeff, focus you first. It's not your fault, focus you. And, and I haven't really told my wife any of this. I've just been kind of doing it. Because I'm just like, I'm tired of being grumpy dad. I'm just tired of it. And, kids tend to spend a lot of time in the past, which is weird. For as little as they've lived, they sure spend a lot of time in the past. I made my bed yesterday. Well, that was yesterday. But I did it yesterday. Well, today's today. It's a 7-day-a-week job. I washed my clothes last week. Well, great. When you run out of clothes, what are we going to do? You going to stink for the rest of your life? Let me change. Oh, Jacob, come here. Come here.
Wait, what?
Come here. So, no, he shouldn't be surprised, because I told him I was going to bring him up here, and we're going to talk about some of the things that we've been discussing.
Yeah.
Okay, don't stand down there, because we're going to start humming. And don't eat the microphone. That's the first thing you can do. Put it here. There you go. Every kid wants to eat a microphone. They put it up to their face so they can be heard. So what word have we been working on? What's the meaning of integrity?
Telling the truth even though it's hard.
What do actions have?
Consequences.
Are they always good?
No.
They can be bad, right?
Yep.
And we got to experience this with some Cheerios last weekend. This is so funny. So he's had this Mason had this thing of Cheerios in his room, this bag. And I said, you better go put it up, because I guarantee you Mason's going to find it, and he's just going to do something just everywhere. So he picks it up and puts it on the table. Oh, great, that's perfect, right in his line of sight. So what does Mason do? He grabs a hold of it, takes it, and shakes it all over the living room. But without asking, he went and got the vacuum cleaner, vacuumed it up. So there's a victory. We've had other not so much victory. With our issues, are they going to be fixed today?
No.
Are they going to be fixed tomorrow?
It's going to take a couple days.
Yeah, it's going to take time. What's my job?
To make sure we're successful.
Mm-hmm. What's our scripture? You remember? I know Sam's the one that tends to have this thing real quick. Do you remember that one? All right. Well, okay, apparently Sam's been paying attention to this more than he has. But, we go through stuff like this every day. We talk about things at school. We talk about negatives and positives. School's been getting better. Home still needs some work. Because who are we supposed to love?
Our neighbors.
Mm-hmm. And how hard is it to love the baby?
It's not hard.
Pretty easy, right? Braylon's pretty easy to love, right?
Yeah.
But when Sam's been messing with you and giving you a hard time, a little hard to love, huh? But are we still supposed to do it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know, it's hard. And we go over stuff like this every single day. Every single day. And we had a terrible weekend. I'm telling you that. We had a terrible weekend. But we go over stuff like this every day. We talk about what do we need to be successful. Even on a good day, most of his days have been good at school lately, but we'll ask, where were you not successful? And so we'll go into little areas about where he wasn't successful, and we'll just talk about it. It's not like grounding worthy things, but if I can make him aware of where he needs to find improvement, then at least it's in his brain. We've had a real struggle with friends, and he's lost pretty much most of his friends. I mean, really, right? We've had some real difficulty with our friends.
Yeah.
They've made poor choices that have wound into him making poor choices that have turned into real difficulties. And he's lost most of them because he's told them he can't hang out with them anymore. And actions have consequences because it's guaranteed that when we're going to come home, we're going to talk about negative things. Who were you hanging out with? What were you guys doing? 9 times out of 10, if it was with them. And I'll tell you, this kid's having a real hard time because these kids that were like once his friends have decided now it's time we're just going to bully the heck out of him now. I mean, he's a big kid for school, but you get 4 kids that are picking on you all the time now. That's what he gets every day. So doing the right thing has consequences, for good or for bad. But we've been working on, we have a bad day at home. You can give me the mic. I know you're just standing there chilling out now. You can go ahead and sit down. No, you can go sit in your chair. You don't need to stand up. Yeah, go sit down. He was listening. But actions have consequences, good or bad. And that's what he's dealing with. But the one thing that I learned, because I told you I'm ever watching, ever listening, ever seeing, is that he would turn a bad night at school, or a bad night at home, and it would turn into a bad day at school. He had a really bad day last Thursday. Really bad day. And I knew that attitude would roll himself into school. So I got I got up and I had a 5-minute conversation with him at like 9:15 when I'm trying to get myself ready for bed. But we need to take this attitude, we need to leave it right here. Because you know what's going to happen. We're going to take this attitude to school tomorrow. And kids just aren't aware of stuff. They aren't aware of how all this stuff builds up in their stuff. And I'm sure adults are the same way, because I know I am. Stuff builds up overnight. It's like what they say, don't go to bed angry. And kids will build stuff up, and then they take it to school, and it just explodes. And so I got my tail in there, and we had a 5-minute conversation. And it's like, as I've been having successes, I kind of look around, and I'm always on point. I'm always looking, where are we not successful? Another area. Getting to bed on time is terrible. It's supposed to be 9 o'clock bedtime. And by about 9, I'm winding my last half hour before I go to sleep. And usually I like to unwind. I'll read or whatever before bed. But man, 9 o'clock for half my kids seemed like a suggestion. I'd have Sam or Jacob's usually the first one in bed because he's tired. He's the first one awake. So usually by 9, he's kind of I'm snoozing. And he's starting to drift himself to the bedroom and he's asleep. But then I've got these mysterious bathroom breaks at 9:15, and I forgot to do this at 9:20. And we've done this for years. This isn't a new thing, it's a forever thing. So I went, how are we going to change this? So the first few days it was, Dad stands because a lot of it too is we have to do shower rotation, we have to make sure the kids get their teeth brushed. And so Dad's brain, because everything I do is in order, at about 8 o'clock it starts. Brush your teeth, 1, 2, 3, we go in order, boom, 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 boom. I have it checked off in my head, who took a shower today, who took a shower yesterday. We get in the shower at 7 so that we're done in time to hit bed 9 o'clock. We made 9 o'clock bedtime for 5 straight days. I haven't done that since the day my kids have been born. But it took more time out of my night when I like to unwind. So my unwind time is making sure they're in bed on time. But I went, if I want to fix it, it's going to take some time. I'm going to have to give up more of my time. It's like, man, I have so little of it as it is, but it's just do we keep doing what this is, or do we fix it? So we're working on fixing it. But, we are beginning to see some successes. So we're beginning to see some breakthrough. And like I said, there's weeks where it's like, I can hear it in my head going, yes, we finally had breakthrough. And then we have like a complete meltdown the next day. And it says, man, it's just like this series of highs and lows, highs and lows, highs and lows. And, it's one of those things that, so it really goes, so goes dad, so goes the house. If dad loses it, the house is going to lose it. Mm-hmm. And, even with my 18-year-old, we got 9 kids. And, the national average is like 1.9. So I've got like 4.5 households of kids living in my house. And, I sat down the other day and I'm like, God, you must have given me like extraordinary strength because this is a lot on my plate. And I didn't like just one day step into it and go, man, I hope I have 9 kids. Or I hope that I have this situation where I'm an introvert raising mostly extrovert kids. Wow, is that hard? It's like, Claire, she'll go in her room for 3 hours and hibernate and read a book or sit on her tablet. And she'll wait, at 9 o'clock she'll go, oh, hey, I'm here. That's pretty easy. But, when I find that we have like what I call the 7 o'clock witching hour, that when stuff happens, it's always 7 p.m. We'll be fine until 7. 7 hits, and that's when crazy tends to start. I'm like, that's when things should be getting easier. That's when crazy tends to start. And so that's why it's like, get home from work, and I have to like I've gotten to where I have to like focus myself as soon as I get in the door, and I don't want to tell my wife how hard the day was. If I had, I don't really have a lot of hard days. I work a lot of hours, but they're not really hard days mentally. But, I get in the door and I have to like focus my brain, and I have to, first question is usually whoever I see first is, how was the day? How did we do? How was school? Have we been successful? Have we been, whatever the little issue is we've been working on. I hit that as soon as I walk in the door. My day is like 20 hours long, really, is what it seems like. But it's like, to be successful, you've got to do more than just sit there. You can't just show up. Would having just 2 kids be easier? Oh, sure, maybe. 2 introverted kids that hang out and are quiet all the time, sure, that'd be easier, but that's not where God put me. Because God clearly said, you can do this. So if God said I can do it, it's just like, okay, there's moments of trial. I'm going to focus myself. I need to focus my brain. That's what that's the one thing I've learned is that I've got to watch my attitude before I ask them to watch their attitude. And I have to tell myself that all the time. And I've had, a couple of moments where stuff just happened, and I'm like, I'll ask Shauna, I didn't yell, did I? And she's like, no, you're fine. She still has no idea what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. And it's like I'm trying to like calm myself down. And because it really doesn't do anybody any good. It just overheats. It escalates everything. At the end of the day, I was thinking to myself once, it was, at the end of the day, when I meet God, and he's like, what is he going to say about me? And if things were continuing, it's like, he'd let me into heaven, but is there anyone going to be behind me? Is it going to be just me?
Yeah. Amen.
That was hard.
That's right.
Self-reflection is really hard. So am I going to be able to bend the will of all of my children? No. But am I going to do the best that I can do? Absolutely. So when the time comes, if life happens to twerk them off in another direction, I won't be able to use the excuse, or they won't be able to use the excuse, it's because Dad didn't try hard enough. Or it was things were just so hard at home because Dad just yelled all the time, and so that's just how I am. They're not going to be able to use that excuse. They're going to have to own it. Actions have consequences. They hear that all the time. They hear actions have consequences. And they'll, they get huffy and puffy and they want to give me attitude. And when I can get them calm into thinking, it works out. Being head of the house in my house is hard. It's really hard. There's nothing easy about it. It's like I have to, I've got kids span between almost 19 all the way down to, she just turned 9 months. I mean, that's a lot of different training at a lot of different levels. It's a lot of different focus. I've got 3 special needs kids that have all their own issues and their own stuff. And it's hard, but as time goes by, it gets a little easier. It does get a little easier. It's kind of like there's moments of difficulty. So if anybody thinks that being the head of the household is the greatest thing ever, it's really not. I wouldn't say it's the greatest thing ever. In our house, there's more than just me. There's my wife. There's also my wife. I gotta find my place. I completely re-sketched how I was doing my message today. My last part, and I'm still good for time, is marriage and the head of the household. Luke 6:31 says, "Do unto others as you would have them do unto you." I repeat this scripture all the time. I repeat it to myself because I just figure in life, there's always moments where we're going to fail here. So I just kind of find scriptures that are just going to help me. When there's moments where I'm like, when is it my turn? I turn to that. Well, scripture didn't say when somebody does it for you. It says do it. Do it how you want them to do it to you, even when it's hard. That's what Jacob said. We got to love our neighbor. We got to love our brother, even when it's hard. And one, I think, issue I have with the imagery of modern day marriage is we have this picture of, we have pictures like the happy married couple and they're hand in hand and walking into the sunset, and that's a great image. But if you look at it and kind of roll it around in your mind, I was thinking about this, and this is kind of actually where most of my message started from, is that divorce stems from that. And that's because what happens when your hands get sweaty? Pull your hand off, you wipe your hand off. How hard is it when you're just holding somebody's hand that's sweaty? You pull it. That's how I see American marriage, is that we're holding hands, and when your hand gets sweaty, we just let go. That's right. That's kind of how we treat a relationship, is that when time gets hard, that's how we see marriage. It's a sweaty hand. But I think the Bible really got it right, like everything else in life. Mark 10:18, it says, "And the two will become one flesh." So they no longer are two, but one flesh. And we know that Eve was made from the flesh of Adam, from his rib. That she wasn't a cell that split off. She wasn't just like, God didn't snap his fingers and all of a sudden, here's your companion. It was formed out of his own body. There are mental times of what feels like in your life that there's, broken bones, where that's where your relationship just feels like it is. But what do you know about broken bones? That once they finally heal, they're stronger than they were before. That, John tells a story that he and Helen likes to tell. It's when they had moments in the past where she'll tell him, "I love you, but I just don't like you very much right now." That was clearly a broken bone moment, but you don't really see him at church all that often, squabbling in the front row. I may have seen it once, where she'll say something to him when he's preaching. He's like, "John, that's not right." But broken bone moment, but still strong marriage. And we should see our spouses, and the analogy I was telling earlier is that our spouses are really for husbands, your wives is really that rib. And when you get married, because it says two become one flesh, that really when you're married, that rib that was taken from you is put back into its place. Amen. That's who your wife is. She's part of your physical body. Two will become one flesh. They are no longer two, but one flesh. How hard is that to separate the human body when to remove the rib again would take surgery? I mean, it would take cracking open your body, pulling it out, sewing it back up. That's a lot harder than a sweaty handshake, wiping it off and walking away.
That's why divorce is so bad.
Yeah. God created women. It shouldn't be surprised that they're nurturers, because in my analogy of the rib cage, what's the job of the rib cage? The job of the rib cage is to protect all the vital organs. Heart, kidneys, lungs, all that stuff. That their job is to protect, in my house, that's who my wife is. My wife, if I ever tell my wife that I haven't eaten today, I can start seeing in the back of her mind she's getting a little irritated that I haven't eaten. Because there's days where if I miss an account, I have to be at certain accounts at certain times, and my drive is about 200 miles a day, so I have to hit my accounts. And if I get behind because another vendor put me behind, I have to just go. I don't have time to stop and eat. And so now she'll go shopping, and she's like, here, take this thing of Cliff Bars and take this thing of almonds and stick them in your truck, so you can at least throw that down while you're driving. So for her, that's her protecting me, because it's just one of those things where, I'll go 2 or 3 days where I had my last meal will have been my last dinner. That it's some days it's caffeine and a Cliff Bar, and that's where my day is. I got a couple days a week when I drive to Coos Bay and Bandon, and that's my day. I'll have made my lunch for work, but it's because I don't think about it. I just go. My brain says I have to be here by then, because if I don't, but like I said, I don't just think I've got to be here. If I'm not back at the warehouse by X time, I'm going to miss soccer practice, which is going to require her to go take all the kids to this practice to get them to the next practice. So my brain has already filtered from 3 a.m. to 7 p.m. That's where my brain is. And it's like the kids don't get it, because it's like Dad just like when Dad appears in the door, it's like he's been at work, whatever work means to my kids. He's been at work. But when I walk in the door, it's like 14-hour days. I walk in the day after 14-hour days. It doesn't really mean anything to kids, which I can't imagine how it would. They don't know what it is. It's like Dad just appears out of the abyss and ta-da, Dad's home. But it says, the scripture says, love your neighbor as yourself. So if I put my wife on par with that level, if a stranger, somebody I've never met before, I have to, love them as I love myself. I have to love my wife more than that. Uh-huh. And, there's times where, my wife she'll have a blow up, and she'll say something in my direction. And I know that at that moment, she's frustrated, she's tired, she's had a long day. And so, my answer to my own brain is just shut up. Just shut up, because, I'm not going to solve the problem. The answer is just shut up, let it come, and she'll walk away, and everything will be fine an hour from now. But if I decide that I'm going to debate it, it's just going to turn into something else. But that doesn't happen like hardly ever at all. It's like I ask my kids, how often do you see Mom and Dad fight? And they'll go, you never fight. Well, exactly. Well, we just don't. It's not one of those things where we hide everything behind closed doors, and because with as many kids we have, there's really not much behind closed doors. But I had a good quote I heard. One of the morning shows that I listened to, one of the producers, his parents had just celebrated their 70th wedding anniversary, and the priest had asked their dad, had asked him, wow, so how did you guys manage to survive 70 years? That's a long time. You're in your 90s, 70 years. And he's like, it's so much easier than you think it is. He's like, all I did was take the I out of marriage. Once I did that, everything else was easy. It wasn't about me. It was about her. And for me, that's where I work to be. I don't worry about, my nature is when I walk in the door, have my conversation with the kids, the first thing I look at is what needs to be picked up in the house. Have dishes been done? Has whatever the next thing has gotten started. And that's the mode I get into. You can ask my kids. They'll say, what does Dad do when he gets home? Dad cleans. Dad cleans all the time. But it's one of those things where if you forget it one day, then it just explodes the next day. So my kids are never going to have any doubt, does Dad work hard? Because Dad just goes. Dad just goes all the time. So I walk in the door, and we pick up toys, and we pick up this. Jacob, move. We're doing this now. And you can see the eye roll. You can see the big deep breath. We're doing this thing. But you know what? Daniel had the same thing. We did the exact same thing when he was younger. And they're going through their moments now. Jacob went and vacuumed the floor, and he's like, Dad, I think the vacuum cleaner's on fire. And I'm smelling. I'm like, oh, there's smoke coming out of this thing. What's going on? I don't know how you managed to break this vacuum cleaner, I'm not a mechanical person, but for some reason I can fix a vacuum cleaner. There's really not a lot to them. You look to see is what's clogged and you kind of follow the path. So, first we roll it upside down and go, oh, let's see if all your sister's hair is caught in this thing. So we pull it all out and he's like, oh, Dad, look at all this hair here. There's like a whole head of hair sitting here on the carpet. And so we pull that out and start it, still smoking. No. So then we pull out the hose and we look at it. And there's all this garbage stuck in the hose because I'd had one of the kids vacuum their room. And kids think that a vacuum cleaner can like suck up a bowling ball. I'll like look at this thing and there's like whole breakfast cereal and wads of garbage and all this stuff in here. And I'm like, Jacob, go get me a knife. So we go in, just a butter knife. And so we get this thing out and I'm banging it on the floor. And all of a sudden, we throw the knife down and all of a sudden this huge pile of just like, this is laying all over the floor. And I said, hey, guess what you just learned? He's like, what? You just learned a skill. You just learned how to fix a vacuum cleaner. Because I'm like, oh, are we going to have to buy a new vacuum cleaner? But then as we work our way through. And that's kind of what life is. It's a lot of little learning moments. But it's like with my wife. I've had moments where I finally had to tell her, I'm not doing this because I think you're a lazy mom. I think I'm doing this because you're a busy mom. And finally that kind of changed some attitude at that point. Because for a long time, I think she kind of thought it was one of these like me against her sort of things where dad just does it because mom isn't good enough at doing it. And no, I was like, no, I'm helping because this is what I can do. You have this skill that I can't do. I have this skill I can do, and I can do it really fast. And, like I said, when Dad walks in, it's Sam, Jacob, move. This is your room, this is your room, this is your room. Pick it up now. And we can be done in 15 minutes. But Mom can't do it when she's got Mason, who's over here doing, no joke, he's over here, Mom, 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 I want you, Mom, 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 and a baby that's crying, and a phone call, and a homework check, and everything else. I don't do a competitive thing with my wife. I'm doing it. Love your neighbor as yourself. And finally, I think it's taken, after a couple of years, she's finally gotten it, that it's not a competition. It's not mom against dad. It's not dad against mom. It's I love you, so this is what I do. And I honestly think we'd have a lot more successful marriages if we stopped doing this whole reciprocation thing where I do this, so you have to do this, or I've done this. Right. But then I reached a point where, you know what, you never did anything back, so I'm just going to stop. Stagnation is the death of marriage.
That's right.
God didn't say stop. He said, love your neighbor as yourself. Didn't say that there was like a finite deadline. It doesn't, yes, there's difficulties in marriage and things that go a little beyond this, but those are usually symptoms of where things start. So in my, it's like in, really in my message, this is kind of like one of those cathartic things where for the longest time, I'm like, why do people go to counseling? I don't understand counseling. And after the first year got used to, got the shakes out of being up here and the nervousness of, there being people here and talking to people, I finally realized I get it. Everyone, like our kids, has stuff that like builds up inside, and talking helps. It may not actually solve the problem, because it's not like a counselor has a magic potion.
Right.
Sometimes we need neutral people to talk to so that we can take all that junk that's inside. I've never seen a counselor in my life, but I get it. I now get it, that sometimes it's just like, you need a breath, you need a place where you can just let it out.
That's right. Amen.
And for a long time, I'm like, these people are all a bunch of quacks. They don't do anything. You charge $150 an hour so they can listen to people talk.
Uh-huh.
And I'm like, oh, as a dad, that's kind of what I've been doing with my kids. I don't charge them I was like, I wish I could charge them $150 an hour to deal with their drama, but so I'll just say this, and I'll kind of end us here, is that I'm still looking for my breakthrough. I'm looking for my breakthrough in my whole life. Physical body, kids, marriage, whatever. But the one thing God keeps telling me over and 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 over again is, don't give up. Don't give up. Love your neighbor as yourself. There is no in. There is no in. Being the head of the household is very difficult. Whether you're married or a single parent or just an individual, it is very hard. And, I'm beginning to see some like breakthroughs with the kids. It's helpful. It doesn't feel like everything that I've said is like a complete waste of my time. And, I'll hear them using like dad-isms about, Dad said do this, or, we do it this way because this is how Dad does it. And you can kind of, at times you'll see when Dad walks in the house, you can just see you can see like the crazy eyes go, I got to get out of the room because our Dad's going to tell us we're going to have to clean. Because but you know what, when they're older, and when they're in their 40s and 50s and 60s and they're dealing with their own kids, they're never going to be able to say, my dad was lazy, he didn't ever do anything, he never taught us anything, he didn't take us to church, he didn't tell us to love God, he didn't tell us to love our siblings, he didn't tell us to love our wives. If they are failures, and this is going to be really harsh, if they are failures in their lives, in their marriages, and with their kids, it won't be my fault. Because I'm going to give 100%. There is no 110%. 100% at fixing what I can do, and the rest will fall on them and God. Because God will be with them, and it will be up to them. So their problems, because it's like I said, it's like I can't stand before God and look and have them destroy and eviscerate their lives and not think I had a part of that if I did nothing. If I was where I was before and all it was the screaming and yelling, and that's all they remembered about their dad. So I'm doing my part. They've got to do their part. You've got to do your part in your own marriages. I don't care how old you are or where you're at in your lives.
That's right.
I don't care if you're at year 1 of your marriage or you're 50. They're still learning for all of us. There's still things that we can be better at. I mean, like I said, when I listen to what my kids say, I listen to what my wife says. Because for me, our last kid will leave, if we have all of them and everything continues, our last child will leave when I'm 58, which puts me about 9 years till I retire. And so my brain's already up there, and my wife is just like, you think so far ahead all the time. And I'm like, I have to. Because do you want me to get this thing figured out so that when the kids are gone, do you want to have to work a full-time job at 58 years old? Or do you want us to get this thing figured out financially with the kids, everything that needs to be done so you don't have to? And you can see the things tick around in her head. Because, man, I'm an intense guy all the time. 100 miles an hour with my hair on fire. I've been up. Most days I'm up at 3:30. I go to bed at 9:30. And I'm at 100 from the minute I wake up. I'm surprised I'm not more tired. I sleep about 4.5, 5 hours a night. And I do that 7 days a week. I was up at 6 o'clock this morning, and my brain was, have I looked at my message long enough? I reordered my entire message at 7 o'clock this morning because I didn't think I had it in the right order. But that's just me. I re-edit constantly. It's like Shauna texted me right before church, and she's like, how are you doing? I'm like, I'm really stressed out. And I'm like, I'll be fine. I'll be fine. It's like I just needed to take the weekend in and take a breath and get up here. So this has been a really good cathartic session today. So if it didn't help you, this at least helped me.
We're only going to charge you $90.
Oh, okay. Okay. So that's 50%. Yeah. But I thank you guys for coming and listening to my words. I mean, my kids get to do it. I mean, my kids are forced to, and you have the option to.
Good job. Good job. Good job.
So we'll go ahead and pray and be excused as soon as one of my children stops talking. And Daniel, come here. You get to pray. Hey, Jacob, what do actions have?
He's making a joke, buddy.
Making a joke.
Yeah, you're good. You're good.
Totally his face.
You're good. All right.
Pray us out.
All right. Dear Lord, thank you for another great day. Thank you for a great service given to us by my dad. And may we have a blessed rest of our day and great start to our week. In Jesus' name I pray, amen.